let's be honest. Are you hoping January will save you? Or are you ready to treat December like the beginning of your next chapter? Most people wait for the fresh start. But midlifers like us, we don't have time to throw away a whole month waiting. Today, we're talking boundaries, intention, joy, connection, and the everyday miracles that show up when you slow down and align your inner world with your outer one. Hey guys, it's Rose. Welcome back to Your Second Opinion, where science meets story and age is your advantage. Before we dive in, another quick favor. If this show makes you feel seen, grounded, or even a little less alone, tap that follow button. Not just for me, but for any creator who pours into you. It's the easiest way to support the conversations you want more of, okay? So let's get into the holiday spirit. Last week, I was recording from Manhattan Beach, California. Sunshine, salt air, palm trees, fresh perspective. Now, and just like that, I am back in New York City where Christmas does not tiptoe, it arrives. The lights, the crowds, the cold snap, you feel in your bones, the whole city transforms. And let me tell you how my December really began. I met with friends at Oscar Wilde, a Christmas theme bar that kind of looks like Santa and Broadway had a love child. Yep. It is pretty extravagant, an Instagram influencer's dream. I'm going to try to describe this the best way I can. Giant polar bears, like these huge furry statues all over the restaurant, the Grinch walking around, Santa walking around. I mean, all kinds of tchotchkes that you probably had growing up in the 70s. It's a little north of Chelsea, if you know Manhattan. It's on West 27th Street, so closer working towards the Midtown area. But like I said, it is a little cheeseball-y, but, it's over. It's fun. It was a good time. So last year, I couldn't get in. So this year, I made a reservation about a month ago, knowing that I was going to be pretty tethered to the city because I've been on call. So I made that reservation about a year. It feels like a year ago, a month ago, and I completely forgot about it. So, and then a push notification popped up on my phone earlier in the day. So I sent a last minute group text out to some friends, and then somehow, by chance, almost everyone was free. So we sat with hot toddies, talking, catching up. For the first time, I have not seen these friends. This was the first time I've seen them since June, which is wild to believe, but that's how this year feels like it's gone pretty quick. It really feels like the first quiet Christmas miracle of this season, because here's the thing. If I would have planned this in advance, I can guarantee it probably would not have happened. And here's another. In midlife, these small moments of connection, they're really not luxurious. They are our lifeline, right? Science calls them these little micro resets. I always like to say microdosing because that's my world, but it's these little micro resets, right? These little tiny human touch points that protect emotional well-being and cardiovascular health. And connection is essential right now. And especially when we're around people we love. I happen to really enjoy and adore the company that I was with, but the holidays can put us in some interesting social situations with loved ones, colleagues, friends who don't necessarily share our same views, okay? And that is okay, besides okay. So during my meditation and reading this morning, I came across a piece written by Deepak Chopra. And if you're not familiar with Deepak, he is a world-renowned, he's a medical doctor, and which he happens to be an endocrinologist by training. He's an author, he's a global leader in integrative medicine, and he has spent roughly 4 decades studying the connection between mind, body, and consciousness. His work really nicely blends science and spirituality and really offering practical tools for presence, mindfulness, and intentional living, especially during emotionally demanding seasons like the holidays. So I thought it was interesting because I actually decided what my topic was going to be yesterday. And I love how then life just like passes your desktop. So this came up, and I felt like he shared something pretty powerful in the article that he posted. And I thought I'd share it with you guys. So, reality is always personal, right? Your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. Okay. I'm going to give you a little translation because it's a little bit deep. But if you expect the holidays to be stressful, chaotic, or emotionally charged, you will unconsciously confirm that belief. It's along the lines of self fulfilling prophecy. I'm sure you're probably familiar with that. So it's like if you believe something, it then manifests it. So if you believe that this is a, pressure cooker time, chances are that's what's probably going to manifest. But if you cultivate the season you want in your mind and your heart first, your experience shifts. You could have a completely different December. And to be clear, this is not about controlling people. It's not about convincing anyone or anything, right? We are not showing up to talk our way in or out of anything with somebody else, right? To get them to see our side or that side. The only reason I'm saying that is because it seems like politics are a driving factor here in the US recently, even when it's not an election year, but we just had an election in New York that a lot of people have, a lot of feelings about. So it's not trying to convince anyone of anything. It's about practicing who you want to be, right? Before you walk into any room, prior to a situation. Deepak reminds us that there are two mindsets. There's the mindset that finds the holidays comforting, nourishing, and joyful. And then the other mindset finds them overwhelming, draining, and disappointing, just kind of like I mentioned, about a minute ago. And both of these mindsets are rooted in perception and expectation, and both can be changed. And this is from personal events that I've had recently. That old saying is that you think you're evolved and then you go home to your family. I don't know what it is, but we can all be adults, right? Those of us who have parents that are still with us, luckily, thankfully. It doesn't matter how old we are. The moment we step through that threshold of our childhood home, we instantaneously become 15 years old, maybe even 12. 12, 15, that time in our life where we really didn't have any voting rights, right? And when I was thinking about this, just having had Thanksgiving, so much of midlife is navigating the family you love. They are by far our biggest teachers. And some who may not share our values, our viewpoints, our politics, our boundaries, our lifestyle, our worldview. And here is the truth. You don't have to match their energy. Nope. You don't have to agree. You don't have to. You can be very, very neutral here. You do not have to match their energy. You don't have to argue. You don't have to convince anyone, like I just mentioned. You just have to stay rooted in yourself, right? This is inner world practice. And this isn't from a argumentative place. This is much more just being very clear on who you are. And I'm going to say that word boundary again, because I think they are essential this time of year. So how do we do this, right? How do we walk into that situation feeling grounded amongst the chaos? So Deepak, in his article, offers some simple practices of the week, and I'm going to share it here because, again, I do believe that this is very perfect for the holiday gatherings, and it's no coincidence that he dropped this article this morning. So he starts with mindful listening. What's that saying? God gave you two ears and one mouth to listen twice as much as you speak. If you didn't know that, that is an oldie but goodie that I've learned along the way that's been passed on. So mindful listening. And this is how it works, okay? So we're going to be exercising that muscle so then you can listen to other people. So to exercise that muscle, he recommends finding a quiet space anywhere, just a place that you can sit comfortably and really let your body go, like unclench your body, relieve, some of that tension, settle in, take few deep breaths, right? And then do that until you feel that tension is released, until you feel somewhat complete with that. And then pay attention to the sound around you when you really get into your body, right? Without judging or labeling. You might be in a busy area like New York. I know a lot of New Yorkers were really good at going to a park bench or any space in a building because it's wintertime now and just sitting there, even on a crowded train, and just listening and taking in everything around you. But the difference here is don't judge it or label it. Now, that is the tricky part because we're human. So really be aware and just try to take in what's around you and just listen, hear it, let the sound flow. For me, I usually imagine sound and breath coming and going in waves like ocean waves, and do that again as long as you need to feel like a return to stillness within you. And if your mind wanders, which it probably will, just keep going back to listening, right? And then once you feel complete and with gratitude, and I talked about this in last week's episode, just acknowledge the silence, presence, and the moment. Just acknowledge it all and just be grateful. Chances are it will put you in a different state. And think about this as like we go to the gym to work out our biceps, our triceps, our quads, our, calves, our bum. This is also another muscle that we are going to be focused on. So why does this matter? Because when you practice mindful listening alone, you become a better listener with others, right? Without absorbing their stress, their opinions, their emotional projections about the world. It really creates a buffer and a boundary and a grounded presence for you. And it really is the fastest way to feel connected without losing yourself. I teach my niece this. She is adorable. She just turned 8. And I would say, Evelyn, when you get stressed out, she's a little type A already. She's in 2nd grade. And, it's a big transition from 1st grade to 2nd grade. And I would give her tools like, because her little brother, right? Once the little brother comes along, she was getting a little frustrated. I'm like, you know what, Ev? Take a breath. Just take a breath, stopping wherever you are. And it turns out my sister went to a parent-teacher conference. And I guess the little kids were, the little 2nd graders are adjusting to this transition. Teachers are a little more firm as they move up. And they were a little stressed out doing an activity. And my niece said, now just everybody take a deep breath. I was so proud. Anyway, I just had to tell you that because if it can work for children, it can work for us. All right, let me reframe here and get to why December matters more than January. I digress. So people treat January like this magical reset, right? Like December 31st, that ball is going to drop in Times Square because let's face it, no matter where you are in the world, we are watching that ball. Some of us are going to date ourselves. Now it's Ryan Seacrest, but it was Dick Clark. But we were going to be watching Dick Clark and that ball. But the thing is that the month of December is really where the real transformation begins. We've got lots of opportunity in December because we're around people. We are much more than likely more social, right, than we are. And what better teacher, right? That everything mirrors back to us, right? Like our outer world and our inner world. So what better time than December? Yes, we are in the end of year push, right? That is a fact. We are gift buying. We are hitting work deadlines. We've got family dynamics. A lot of people are traveling. They're hosting various parties, right? There's this invisible emotional labor that nobody sees. And in midlife, it all hits us differently this time of year. So we're going to do a little research check again, because I think it's important to root ourselves in data and sources. And according to Harvard Health, holiday stress disrupts sleep, metabolic hormones, and immunity. According to the American Heart Association, cardiac events spike in December due to stress, alcohol, and now we're going to circle back around to that poor sleep. And we see an uptick every year in the operating room this time of year. Rutgers Health says midlife adults, especially women, carry the highest emotional load. Women tend to be the caregivers of the family, tend to be the ones doing the shopping. I'm not going to discount all the men because I know there's a lot of men out there that do these things too, but statistically, the women take on that part of nurturing during the holiday season. Psychology Today writes, now the solution to these things are boundaries, rituals, simplicity, right? All these things, boundaries, rituals, and simplicity, I'm repeating that on purpose, lowers cholesterol and higher our mood, right? So it boosts the way we feel. So if you feel stretched, scattered, sparkly, yet a little tired, maybe even exhausted, it is not you. It's physiology, right? It's our environments, it's midlife, and it's the invisible load you've been carrying. Because we tend to carry a lot in midlife, right? We have children, some younger, some older, aging parents, lots of work responsibilities. So the proof is in the data. All of the above evidence why we are not going to wait for January to reset. We are going to start now, right? We're not going to put it off, and we're going to make time for it. And it's really not that difficult. You know, if I can do it, I'm not saying I'm the busiest person, but I do juggle quite a bit. I don't have children, but I have a demanding job. I'm researching all the time for this podcast. I'm setting up guests. Yeah, I help at a couple hospitals. So, you know, it's all basically doable, even with very early mornings and late nights. So personally, I used to let December kind of bulldoze me a little bit, right? I would say on average, I would say the majority does that. And that's okay. We say yes, right? We feel obligated. I mean, we've got work parties, colleagues' parties, family parties. Can I stress the work parties? Some which are better than others, right? And then the stressors that go around with that. Don't even let me, I think that's like a separate topic for a separate podcast, honestly. But we tend to say yes. We give. We give what we don't have. We attend, we just attend, whether not even parties, just events galore. And with all that, there's a little bit of a performative aspect to all this when we show up, right? We're on, you know, we're presenting our best self, right? Or what we think that other people maybe want to see, right? And again, work-wise, we tend to see an uptick of cardiac cases in the OR. I mentioned that. So all of this personally is just like personally me, what I'm talking about. And then, boom, collapse when the new year hits, right? No secret. The first few weeks in January, everybody goal sets on January 1st. But it takes a while to ease back into it because people are really, not even that they're deflated, I think they're just empty, right? You're just empty. You are recouping from all the nights out, all the dinners out, the spending, right? Dry January is a thing. It wouldn't be a thing if it wasn't a thing. Yeah, so I feel like I'm inviting you maybe to do things differently this year, this December. This year, I thought I was going to host in my new space. I had this grand planned, right? And can I tell you, I know I keep talking about this kitchen table because it's now becoming, I think there is a bigger lesson in this because it was supposed to come Saturday and it was delayed again. Yes, they had half of the table. The half of the table made it into the truck and they didn't have the other half. And I'm like, no, what good is the top of the table without the base of the table? You can deliver the table when you have the full table. And this is not an inexpensive, you know, it's a nice sized piece of furniture that I had made for my space. So here we go. So I didn't have a table for Thanksgiving. That's what I'm trying to say. And it doesn't look like I'm going to have a table this week. So yeah, it's getting a little ridiculous. But, you know, things kept getting pushed. So I had this grand Pinterest, I don't really use Pinterest that much, but I'm not like, I don't really a slave to fashion. But I had this idea in my head what I wanted to do. I wanted to host. I wanted to say thank you for people who have been so supportive of me this year. Well, it's not going to happen, which is why I met him at the restaurant the other night. So overall, my whole New York City Christmas vision has poofed, evaporated. So I'm just surrendering with that. And I got to roll with it, right? That's all we got to do. So because midlife isn't about controlling the season, it's about navigating it without abandoning yourself. And that also means speaking up to the company where I purchased this piece of furniture. So now I have a growth opportunity this week to maintain a boundary, and nobody wants to do that. I mean, really, we are conditioned to avoid pain and painful conversations and seek out pleasure. So this is something I'm dealing with this week, right? Because this is adding to my chaos because I'm unsettled at home. So, all right, let me reel us back in here, transition, and recalibrate a little bit. So, Deepak showed some actionable items in this article. And so I'm going to share them here. So, here are these 5 shifts that may serve you this season. Think of these in terms of mindset and your quote, why, end quote. Okay. So, these are not really tangible, but could end up being tangible if you know what I mean. So, 1, simplify and delegate. This is going to be the shift that is the stress lowering shift. Okay. Say that a few times. So, let traditions evolve. And what do I mean? I know a lot of us, nostalgia is wonderful and we like to go back and recreate. I mean, some of us had a really fun holiday season and maybe some don't want to recreate old traditions. But I think we have to surrender that we've lost people along the way, right? That's where our grief comes in. And we need to adjust and recalibrate for that. And therefore, our traditions are going to evolve a little bit. Like my grandmother used to always host Christmas Eve and Christmas. And then my mom started hosting a big party. And now my brother has picked up the baton to give my parents a break because they are getting a little bit older. So it looks a little bit different. We all had to adjust, my cousins and everything, because my mom put on a pretty good party, my parents. But now my brothers, it is amazing. It's great. And it's now my sister-in-law's side of the family, right? So we've got all these dynamics, but it's great. It's a lot of fun. It's just different than how we grew up. And everybody's recalibrating, right? You're not just the only one. So give yourself permission, to not perform, to not host, or to do everything the way you used to, right? Let other people help. Ask. I'm going to give you a question because I do think reflective questions help you really get to the root of things. Ask yourself, what would make this season 20% easier? I know there's a book, 10% Happier, but maybe you don't need like an entire change, right? Sometimes that could be impossible. But if we just say, what's going to make me 20% feel less stressed by 20% today, right? And maybe focus on that. 2, set real boundaries. I know I already dropped that word. It's now in Deepak's list, but this isn't about just setting boundaries with others. It's for others and yourself, right? This is going to cause the energy shift. Harvard, I'm going to get back to some little research. Harvard shows that poor sleep destabilizes mood, metabolism, and hormones in just 1 week. So we're going to go back to sleep because I do think that sleep is really a fundamental that we don't give. We don't realize it until we're older, right? We wear our lack of sleep as a badge of honor when we're younger, when in reality, we should be paying more attention to our sleep, right? But woulda, coulda, shoulda. So back to boundaries and sleep. I'm just giving you this as an example. Your boundaries matter more than your calendar. So try this, right? If you receive an invitation, maybe say, thank you so much. I'm keeping my December lighter this year. So allocate time for yourself. So this way you don't have to go to every party. And sometimes saying this stuff is uncomfortable because we don't want to offend people. We don't want people to take things the wrong way. However, maybe by you setting a boundary is going to inspire them to do the same, right? Did you ever think about that? Like, give other people opportunities to step up for themselves as well. So I find like switching that narrative a bit adds, it helps a little bit. 3, regulate your nervous system. And by that, it's going to be the physiology shift. Okay. So, how do we regulate our nervous system? Maybe it's a quiet morning. I know for me, right? I like to get up. I don't like to put the light on right away. I have night lights, I get my coffee. I drink some hot water with lemon. Just think about how you start your day and regulate yourself immediately when you woke up. Maybe that's refraining from social media, picking up your phone right away. I know that is a terrible habit just because we are craving information all the time, right? What's the weather? We're picking up from where we left off the night before. Maybe we were waiting for an email, a text message, a phone call, right? So, but try to ease into your mornings a little bit. Hydration, intentional alcohol limits, right? Mocktails are everywhere in New York City and Los Angeles right now. It is the thing. Sad to say, there are still some peer pressures to drink. Like, even if it doesn't seem like peer pressure, people will ask you. Or, because I'm not a huge drinker, but people, if I do get a cocktail, or it might be a mocktail, but they think it's a cocktail, they'll say, "Oh, you're drinking." It's like, does that really have to be a thing? Like, why does it matter? But because I take deep breaths and I center myself before I go out into the world, I say, "Yes, Bob, I'm drinking. I don't know a Bob. I'm just saying." I'm just like, or no, Bob, it is a mocktail, right? I don't have to explain myself, but sometimes people do need an explanation just to send them on their way. But I'm just sharing all this because, we all go through this stuff, and this might help somebody who's listening. Move your body in a way that feels doable, whether it's in the morning, again, your quiet time, stretching, some light yoga, taking a walk after dinner, even maybe stretching at night before you go to bed, hitting it hard at the gym, going for a run, whatever you need to do to warm up your body, cool down your body, settle your body, blow off steam. That is helping you regulate your nervous system. And I always say, like, I know for me, a couple of my colleagues and I, we used to religiously work out together. We need to bring that back into fashion, by the way. It was really to blow off steam because chances are we had a pretty busy day and we had the interactions with pretty similar people. And we were like, spin class, boom, boom, Joey's class. Yeah, got you. And then we'd go get our smoothies. So whatever that looks like for you. Because, yeah, again, this can be social time, right? Maybe have a gym date. Oh, I just thought of that. I wasn't thinking about that earlier, but maybe that's your social time. I know people are leaning more towards wellness. Maybe that's your holiday get together. I just took a spin class with a friend when I was in Los Angeles. It was a lot of fun. She had never done spin, was a little intimidated, and I love spin class. And so we did it together and it was a lot of fun. It became a whole morning. Like, we got smoothies at Erewhon. We did a little grocery shopping. And she was like, "Oh, I can check that off my bucket list now. I did it." And she had a good time. Now she can go by herself when she feels like it. She's not as intimidated. So, these are some things that your January future self will thank you for. Number 4. Now, I don't want to just stay with me here, okay? We've got a couple more before we wrap. Make intentional decisions. Now we've got the clarity shift, right? Before you commit to anything, right? Ask, does this support the holiday I want or someone else's expectations? Midlife is too sacred a season to live on autopilot. Heck, the holidays go too fast along with life to live on autopilot. So ask yourself, Is this in alignment with what I want out of this holiday season? Is this in alignment with what I was planning, my personal goals? And check in with yourself and see what comes of that. 5, look for everyday miracles. Now we're going to get into the mindset shift. Okay. This is neuroscience, not woo woo. Just be open to miracles. I know this sounds a little Disney-ish and childish, but maybe open yourself to wonder and miracles this time of year. Gratitude is a miracle, right? It literally rewires the brain's stress pathways. I talked about that last week. Think about it. Maybe you get to work, you're running late, you get there. I always say, I made it to work in one piece after hopping subways, walking to and from the subway station, getting to work. Some days you are just grateful you arrived. That is a miracle. How many times did you catch yourself saying that? Right? So maybe ask yourself, what miracle am I open to this season? What are you open to? I mean, it can be anything. Maybe it's somebody you want to reconnect with. Maybe it's just, your grocery list completed, your deadlines at work completed, because there are things in life you're like, this is going to take a miracle, right? And be open to it, right? Look for that little bit of sparkle in the day, because it is there. Because if it's in New York City, it's anywhere. And yeah, so just ask, maybe it's every day. What miracle am I open to today? And allow an influx of positivity to come your way. As I said last episode, like what's good, right? Like look for the good, look for the miracles. What are you open to? And I'm going to take this another step. Everything usually is good, even though it seems bad, right? Because some way things do end up serving us at some point, even if we don't see it right away. So what is my miracle? Well, a peaceful Christmas in my new space. Even though it looks nothing like the version I planned, my terrace has everything potted, so I'm going to put my lights out there. I don't have a table, as I shared. I have one stool to sit on. I have my bed, which is great. A lot of this furniture has been made just for my space, so it takes time. But you know what? I will entertain in the spring. And if that doesn't happen by then, we are going to revisit this conversation. But, sometimes the magic isn't in what arrives, it's what unfolds, right? Like my last minute plans on Friday. If you really like when you work in healthcare, someone's always on call. Someone's always stuck at work. And then if you're not on call or stuck at work, maybe you're out of town. You're with family, you're with your loved ones. So really kicking off Friday this week, right, was a miracle, right? And like I said, I happen to really enjoy and adore these people. And now, okay, I know I'm giving you a lot of lists, but I really want to give you some things that you can tangibly use to take away with you this season that are basically, I like to give news that you can use. So, action 1, okay, so again, these are very simple actions to anchor down these intangible shifts. So, let's do the 3-question check-in. I know I went along and gave some questions to ask yourself, but tonight, maybe as we set the tone for December, we're in the first week, ask yourself, what matters most to me this December? Like, really get granular here. What means the most to me this December? What fuels me? Like, what really nourishes you and just feeds your soul? And what drains you, right? But I really want to make sure you focus on what fuels you and also what drains you together for that balance. And then again, what miracles am I open to? Okay, so I'm going to pull that question back down into these actionable items because I think that's important to set your day. Action 2, Okay, we're going to get back to those morning and evening rituals and the bookends to begin and start your day. Okay, again, only takes a few minutes. This does not have to be complicated. Again, this is how you drink your warm beverage of choice in the morning. In quiet, right? Maybe it's with your pet, in solitude, but really be intentional. Maybe it's with somebody you love. Maybe you share. You usually quickly get up and go, but instead you reconnect with your spouse or a family member or your roommate. In the morning, you make these little dates. Make it with yourself, make it with somebody else. But the point of it all is that it's intentional. Maybe you stretch a little bit. Again, morning, evening, stretch, yoga, blow off steam at the end of the day, right? It's just however you choose to move your body. Journaling, some people like to write things down. That's always nice. I was just talking about gratitude today with my friends, and a mentor of mine, Tara, she was on season 1. She would encourage us to write 101 things that you were grateful for on Thanksgiving. And there's 101 things. You don't realize it, but there is. So maybe every day you write down, maybe you don't have time for 101 that day, but maybe you start a running list. Like, I'm going to write 10 things today I'm grateful for, or 5 things today that I'm grateful for. And it can be anything, right? If you're in New York City and it's winter and you live in an old building, you're like, boy, I'm grateful I had hot water, because sometimes that doesn't happen. So there's always something. I'm grateful I woke up in time before my alarm so I can do this. There's always something. Like, I hate when I go for my coffee and I was like, dang, I forgot to get coffee creamer on my way home from work, because that's like my little morning indulgence, right? I'm hold solid boundaries on what and how I eat, but it's that morning coffee. It's like, oh, it's not going to be the same, right? It's little things, essential oils, whether it's, I take a little bit of lavender and eucalyptus, like either different times of day. I put like a drop in my shower and it changes the whole experience. It feels like a spa. A little essential oil in your hot chocolate, some peppermint in your tea. There are so many ways to add richness to your life that are very, very inexpensive in time and money. Okay. So I'm just inviting you to think outside of the box. You don't have to use these, but I think you are getting the drift. And I'm going to go there to prayer and meditation because they are the bookends to my day. I start my day every day with meditation and every day with prayer. I always say that prayer is kind of active. That's when we're talking to God, spirit, universe. And then meditation is when we're listening. So it's an open dialogue. So you might do both twice a day. You might do one in the morning and one in the evening. But yeah, I just thought I'd share that with you. I do morning, evening, and then usually throughout my day, usually after my case, I check in because I try to have a clean slate when I leave work, especially if I had a really stressful day, right? Before I step out into the world on First Avenue, I like to clear my head, because then the people who I come in contact with who had nothing to do with my work, if it was stressful, if it was overwhelming, if it was busy, right? They're not subject to that part of me, right? They get a better version of me. So that's something I've been adopting over like the last 5 years, and it works. And honestly, if you do have a partner or spouse or going to see friends, I think they would appreciate that when you show up a different way. Like, you don't want to bring your baggage from the day to your social situations or home to your family, right? I mean, that's not a good way to keep friends. You want to be light and fun. I'm not saying everything has to be perfect or performative, but when you enter a space, right, it's always better to be an improvement to the space and not a downgrade, right? That's really where I'm going at with this. So you clean up your own energy, and it's healthy for you and it's healthy for the people around you, and they don't have to pick that up, including your pets, by the way, because your pets pick up your energy. If you have an anxious dog, probably you're anxious. It's just a reality check. I mean, my dog is really chill. I'm a little type A or I'm a lot type A, but I'm mindful, and he is from the beach. So he is from California, but he is also very affected when I raise my voice. Like if I get upset over something, I see him flinch. I just saw that the other day, actually, and that bothered me because he's going to be 15, and I don't want to bring that energy home to my little Oscar. So he doesn't deserve that. Okay. So, with mindful listening of the environment and the energy around us, right? As I said before, when we do mindfully check in, that also is active, but it's also passive. And I'm going to share this with you. I can't remember if I just said this on this podcast or when I said it, but forgive me if I'm repeating this but I do think it's a good thought to live by. We've got 2 ears and 1 mouth to listen twice as much as we speak. Okay. So, yeah, I'm just going to share that again. And some quiet candlelight, night lights, however you set the mood of your environment. So, these are just a few examples how to bookend your nervous system, right? Get creative, right? To create your peace. You know what? My meditation teacher, David G., he's amazing. During my meditation teacher training, he had shared with us, because his goal is to guide us as future meditation teachers to meditate multiple times a day. And that's actually where I got my afternoon meditation. He says, think of your morning meditation and your morning prayer, like setting the table, and your afternoon or your evening meditation, like washing the dishes. So setting the table, then we've got the meal of the day, and then we're cleaning the dishes before we connect with our loved ones and ourselves. So I hope you like that. I always found that to be super helpful. Again, bottom line, create your peace. And lastly, we are finally here. Action 3, presence over perfection. And when I say presence, I mean our presence, right? How we show up, not presents as gift giving. At the end of the day, the month, the season, people do not remember perfect. They remember how it felt to be around you. How do you want to feel? And how do you want others to feel when they're around you, right? Nobody wants to be the source of stress of anybody's day. I like to be the solution, not the problem. I'm not perfect. Sometimes I am the problem, for full disclosure. I'm sure some of my surgeons would say that. But the goal is to be the solution. I might be the problem, but my goal is the solution. How's that sound? Just how do you want people to feel, right? Take it outside yourself a little bit. So, all right. What I want for you to take away from this is that December doesn't have to drain you. It can fuel you. Gift giving can fuel you. Being out in the mall, the holiday spirit, it can fuel you. I know all this sounds stressful. I don't really care for shopping, but I do love going to the stores and seeing the trees. People tend to be nicer to each other. So yeah, put yourself out there. It can shape you, right? It's a mirror again. It's going to strengthen you, no doubt. It might surprise you. Look for the miracles. They are quieter than we think, but they are everywhere. It is the little things. Okay, my friends, that is a wrap for today's episode from the twinkling streets of New York City, where the windows are lit and the sidewalks are full already. We actually did have a light dusting of snow a few weeks ago, so maybe we'll see a little bit of that this month. But in any case, you can feel the city getting louder and brighter, but somehow our inner world can get clearer and calmer. Wherever you're listening, a kitchen, a parked car, a park bench, the gym, on the treadmill, out for a walk, a crowded subway. I hope today's conversation brought you back home to yourself and sets the tone for your holiday season. If this episode supported you, hit follow on Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen. You can also catch this on YouTube. Share it with someone who needs a little midlife magic today, right? Chances are you do know someone who's having a difficult time this holiday season. So from Brooklyn, I'm Rosemarie Beltz, and this is your Second Opinion, where science meets story and age is always your advantage. See you next time.